Hey guys, so I'm getting ready to do more gallon man conversions, but we're actually going to, we have to look at halves. Like they're allowed to ask us about half gallons and 2.5 gallons or 2.5 cups, 3.5 quarts, 5.5 pints. So the easiest way that I know how to show that to you is to take a highlighter and like draw a line through the G or through, a Q for half of a quart or, half of a pint. So at this point, because I know some of you, you might not have markers at home or highlighters or crayons or color pencils. I'm going to upload a copy of my notes for you. So you will have something to look at that's cut in color for you so you can see it better. But I still would like you to follow along. I still would like you to write in your math notebook if you have your math notebook or on another piece of paper. And even if you just have like one color, even if it's like a blue pen, black pen, pencil, whatever, if you can still make the lines where I make the lines, just it might be easier for you to grasp the concept and understand the concept as we're working through it. And then I will upload a copy of my colored notes so that it's a lot easier for you to see versus just a bunch of lines and pencils or pens. So I'm going to flip to look really quickly at my notebook. So this is where we were for the past, the past lesson 3 was all about gallon man and just whole number conversions within gallon man. So I'm going to flip my page, and I still would like it to be, two things next to each other, like two blank papers. And if this is going to bother you, if you want to flip it again, there we go. That's fine. Doesn't matter to me. But we're still going to be looking at the same type of thing. So if I can find what I did with my blue pen. Oh, you guys, I'm a mess. Here it is. Okay. Okay, so I'm not going to put dates here anymore because Mrs. Nickerson and I, we've gone and changed things a little bit. So I'm just, where we would normally put a date, I'm just going to title it Lesson 4. So I'm going to show you my notebook again. And just over here, I'm just going to put Lesson 4. And I'm still going to title this Gallon Man. And I'm going to do the same thing I did because I don't really have a ton of space. So I'm going to write customary and then conversions. So if you remember, a gallon I showed you yesterday, earlier, however you're doing this. The last video I showed you a gallon of milk. So let's see here, gallon of milk. So a gallon, if you remember, it's like the big fat cartons of milk that mom would get, at the grocery store. It's a large unit of measurement. So when we make the gallon, the G for gallon, it's going to take up your entire page. Okay? So if you remember, when we go back, because we're literally making the exact same guy. Okay? In 1 gallon, there are 4 quarts. So I'm going to put 2 Q's up top. And I'm going to put 2 Q's on the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 quarts are in a gallon. But inside of every quart, there are 2 pints. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put 2 P's inside of every Q because there are 2 pints in every quart. Okay? So again, we're making the same guy we already made. Okay? In every pint, there are 2 cups. So inside of every single one of my P's, I'm going to give myself 2 C's. So in every pint, there are 2 cups. And then I'm going to use my different colored pen, my red, just to show the ounces. Because remember, in every cup there are 8 ounces, but we obviously don't have enough room to make 8 O's. That would be obnoxious. So I'm just going to use a different color to do a red 8. And remember, the ounces are different because we can't just count how many 8s we see. Like for this 1 quart, I see 8 4 times, but there's not 4 ounces in 1 quart. It's 8 4 times. So 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, or 8 times 4. So in 1 quart, it's not 8 ounces. In 1 quart, there are 32 ounces because 8 4 times, or 8 times 4 is 32. So I'm right now just putting a red 8 in every cup because there are 8 ounces in every cup. Now, this is the gallon man, okay? He's made. Big G, 4 Q's, there's 2 P's in every Q, there's 2 C's in every P, and there's an 8 in every C, okay? So this is our guy. There we go. There he is. So on the next page, because we're going to focus on halves, I'm still going to go ahead and I'm still going to make this title just say, let's just put gallon man examples. So gallon. Okay, so I want to do 2, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 normal ones. And when I say normal, I mean whole numbers, like what we were looking at. So just to get ourselves back in that routine, so I want to go ahead, I want to do 3 practice examples, and then we're going to start looking at some halves. So let's say, for example, number 1, let's say 6 quarts is equal to some amount of cups. So remember, this is what we did yesterday. We can't start with the cups because this is where our blank would be. We're going to have to start where there's the number and the word. So we're going to start here with quarts, but quarts starts with Q. So we're going to have to find ourselves 6 Q's, and then we're going to be finding how many cups are in 6 quarts. So my cups are my C's. If I know I'm looking at 6 quarts, I'm going to look for 6 Q's. So this is 1 Q, 2 Q's, 3 Q's, 4 Q's. So then I'm going to have to go through these 2 Q's again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be, one more time would be 5. One more time for him would be 6. So if I'm looking for cups, I'm going to count how many C's I see inside of 6 Q's or 6 quarts. So this is 1 C, 2 C's, 3 C's, 4 C's, 5 C's, 6 C's, 7, 8. He's 9, he's 10, 11, and 12. That's 13, that's 14, that's 15, that's 16, but that's only for 4. So to do these 2 again, if this is 16, this would be 17 and 18, 19 and 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So I counted 24 C's in 6 quarts or 6 Q's, so there's 24 cups in 6 quarts. So let's do maybe 1 or 2 more where it's just the whole number before we get out of my way, before we look at anything different, okay? So let's say for number 2, let's say if it's 3 gallons, how many pints would that be equal to? Now remember, we're not going to start with pints because the pints is where we have the blank, so we can't do anything with that. So instead of starting with the pints, we're going to start with the gallons. But the gallon is the whole G. And because they are asking me about 3 gallons, that means when I look at the gallon man, I'm going to go through this 1, 2, 3 times. So they're asking me, or I'm asking you, about pints. And I know that pints starts with P, so when I go through this 3 whole times, I'm going to count how many P's I see, because I'm looking for pints. So for in 1 gallon, that's 1, 2 P's, 3 P's, 4 P's, 5, 6, 7, 8. But that's just for 1 gallon, so I'm going to go again. If he's 8, this is 9, 10 P's. 11 P's, 12 P's, 13, 14, 15, 16, but that's only 2 times through and they wanted 3 times. So if he's 16, I got to go one more time. 17 peas, 18 peas, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So now that I've gone through 3 times and I counted 24 peas, that tells me that in 3 gallons there would be 24 pints. All right, so that's not really me letting you try it, that's me talking, but you guys know I love to talk. I'm a talker, so bear with me. Let's do one more where you are doing it. Let's say, how many cups, I guess it would help you if I showed you. How many cups are in 6 pints? So remember, we're not doing the cups. You guys have to start with the pints, and the pints are peas. So find me 6 peas. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 5, this is 6, which means we're not using these because there is 6 peas right here. But I'm asking how many cups, and cups are C's. So if you find yourself 6 peas, count me how many C's there are. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So in 6 pints, you should count 12 cups. I did it again. I didn't let you do it again. That's okay. Be with me. Be with me. So let's say now, if we are okay to go through the whole numbers, we're okay to count. When I start asking you about halves, how do I want to say this? We're still technically counting. It's just going to look a little bit different. So I'm going to do one where I just go through and count. And then the next couple ones, I'm going to draw you what you need, because I think that might help us a little bit too. So let's say, before I totally confuse you, that this is 4, okay? And let's say for number 4, we're going to say, how many quarts are equal to 1.5 gallons. So here's where our highlighters would come into play and be helpful. I'm going to take an orange highlighter, and right where it looks like you would cut the gallon in half, that's what I'm going to do. So if you have a marker or a crayon or a colored pencil, something that so you could see it, go ahead and right where your line is for your G, just go all the way across. Cut the G in half. If I'm asking you about 1.5 gallons, okay, the gallon is the big G. That means I'm going to go through the whole gallon one full time, and then I'm going to go through halfway. So 1.5. I'm going to go right to the highlighted line. I'm asking you about quarts. So I want to count how many Q's are in 1 full gallon and 1/2 of another gallon. So if I count the Q's, the quarts, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, that's for the full gallon, 5, and 6. So it's 4 quarts for 1 full gallon all the way through. And then if I only want to do half of another one, if there's 4 in a full one, this would be 5 and this would be 6, because that's halfway through. So there are 6 quarts or 6 Q's in 1 full gallon and 1/2 of another gallon. 1.5. So it gets a little bit difficult if you're trying to look at well, let me say this before we do that. I'm going to take a different color. So I'm going to take a pink. And if I'm asking you to cut a quart in half, I'm going to just take a highlighter and draw a line right between the 2 peas. So if they're asking you about 1/2 of a quart, if there's 2 pints in a full quart, well, how many pints are in only half the quart? Just the 1. Okay? I'm just trying to make this a little bit easier and showing you if we can literally split this in half. If there's 2 pints in a whole quart, then in 1/2 of a quart, there's only 1 pint. If I take a purple highlighter and I cut a pint in half, if there are typically 2 cups in every pint, but I'm cutting the pint in half, how many cups then are in 1/2 of a pint? Well, if there's 2 and a full one, and I only want to go halfway, then I only should have 1 cup left inside of my pint. So if it helps you to draw it, I'm going to start trying to draw them and make things a little bit easier. I think it might be easier just for you to mentally see it until you really pick this up. So let's say for 5, let's say how many pints, yeah, let's try it. Let's say how many pints are in 1.5 gallons. Okay, well, we know now that 1.5 gallons, because the gallon is my big G, and I have to start over here because this is where I have the number and the words. 1.5 gallons means you go through 1 full time and half of another time. That's what 1.5 is. But now instead of counting quarts, let's count pints. And pints starts with P, so we're going to count the number of P's in 1.5 gallons. So let's say this is 1 P, 2 P's, 3 P's, 4 P's, 5, 6, 7, 8. But that's 8 P's for 1 whole gallon. I need 1.5. So I'm at 8. So let's say this would be 9, this is 10, this would be 11, and this would be 12. So that tells me that if I can figure out how to do 1.5, I'm still only counting. And I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 12 pints in 1.5 gallons, okay? 1 full time through, half of another time through. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. So let's say then for 6, let's try something we can draw. Let's say in 3.5 quarts, how many pints would that be? I want to show you an easier way because I feel like some of you would be fine to say that's 1 full quart, 2 full quarts, 3 full quarts, and then we'd have to draw another line, but I feel like that might be confusing for you. They're asking you here about quarts and pints. Well, I know that in every Q there are 2 P's, and they're asking me about Q's and P's. Okay, my quart starts with Q. My pint starts with P. So if I want 3.5 quarts, I'm going to give myself 3 full Q's right underneath where I'm working. But it's not just 3, you guys. It's 3.5. So I'm going to make another Q. But then I'm going to color half of it in because I'm not using this half. This is 3 full Q's and half of another. Now they're asking me about pints. They want to know how many P's would be in 3.5 Q's. So you look at your normal picture of the gallon man. How many P's are supposed to be in every Q? Just these 2, just 2 P's. So in every one of these P's where I'm trying to help myself out and draw a picture here, I'm still going to give myself 2 P's. 2 pints in every quart. Except for when we get to the half, I'm not sticking 2 up here. If there's 2 pints in every full quart, and this is just half of a quart, well, half of the 2 that's normally there would just be the 1. 1 would be up top, 1 could be on the bottom. That would be my 2, but I'm not using the bottom because I only want 3.5. Now, count how many P's you see. How many pints should be in 3 full quarts and half of another? 3.5 quarts. If you count what's in front of you, this is 2, 4, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that tells me that in 3.5 quarts, or 3 fulls, half, 3.5 Q's, there should be 7 P's or 7 pints. Let's try another one where I'm going to draw it out for you. Okay. Let's say in 2.5 quarts. How many cups would there be? Well, I know I'm drawing the quarts, okay, because that's where I would start. That's where I have the number and the words. So we could look at 2, 2.5, okay, or we could just draw this out, make this easy. They want 2.5 quarts. So that's 2 full ones, because that's my whole number, and half of another one. But it doesn't say 3, it says 2.5. So I'm going to keep one hole, another hole, and I'm going to shade in half of another one because I don't want 3. They're not asking me about 3. They're asking me about 2.5. 2 fulls and half of another one. Well, we just said that we know there's 2 P's in every Q, 2 pints in every quart. They're not asking me about pints, they're asking me about cups. So I got to keep going until I can give myself some C's. But I know that the C's, you guys, are inside of the P's, so I have to draw the P's. So 2 pints in every quart, and this is only half, so I can only do 1. Okay, I'm not going to fit 2 in there if I'm only looking at half. And I'm putting 2 P's in there because I know they're not asking me about pints, you guys. I know they're asking me about cups. But if you look at a normal quart, we drew 2 P's because there are 2 pints in every quart. And then there are 2 cups inside of every pint. So I'm just going to follow what I need so I can get myself an answer. So here are my 2.5 quarts, 2 full ones, half of another. And I know that there should be 2 pints in every quart because that's what we drew for the gallon man. So in my 2 full quarts, my 2 normal Q's, I put 2 red P's there. But this guy's not a full one, he's half. So instead of doing 2, I'm going to go ahead and only do 1. Okay, 2.5. And I only did 1 because 1 is half of the 2 that should be in a full one. 1 is half of 2. Inside of every P then, you guys, I've got 2 C's, and they are asking me about cups. So I'm going to use the blue again, because just so sorry, we can have a contrast. I don't have to worry about making the 8s because they're not asking me about ounces, they're just asking me about cups. If there is just 1 P here and 2 C's should be inside of every P, then I'm going to put my 2 C's here. And then I'm going to stay right here. See if you can tell me how many cups should be in 2.5 quarts. If you got yourself to 10, it absolutely should be 10. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm counting the blue C's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. It seems crazy, but we're still just counting. The hardest part is you figuring out what in the world you need to draw to make this easier for you. So let's say maybe 3 or 4 more we'll walk through together, and then I'm going to ask you to try some things on your own. And guys, all I'm doing when I'm figuring out what actually I want to draw, I'm using this as my model. Okay? Quarts and pints was a little bit easier, but quarts to cups was a little bit harder because I knew I had to use the P's, so I knew how many C's to give myself. It is a little bit harder, but we can do this. You're just going to have to use this as your model. So I'm kind of getting down to the bottom of my page. We can probably fit 8 down here, and then I'll have to flip over, and I'll just keep flipping back and forth because I think that's what's going to be the easiest for me. So let's say for 8, let's see here. What do we want to use? Let's ask how many cups. Yeah, let's say how many cups is going to be in 4.5 pints. Well, I know I'm not going to start drawing C's because that's where my question mark would go. That's what I'm missing. They're giving me the number and the words for pints. So I'm going to draw 4.5 pints. So 4 is the whole number. I want you to give yourself 4 P's. I'm giving myself 4 because that's my whole number, but I can't just, it's not just 4, it's 4.5, which means I need to give myself a 5th P, but I'm going to cut it and I'm going to shade in the bottom because I'm only doing 4.5. Okay, I'm just going halfway through. I'm not using the bottom piece. Now, this one's not as bad. It's not, 2 steps because it's going from, pints to cups. And in 1 pint, how many cups should you have? How many C's are typically in 1 P? Just 2. 1 and 2. I'm not looking at this guy. I'm just looking at one P on its own. It should just be 1, 2. So I'm going to go ahead, if I'm doing pints to cups, P's to C's, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put my 2 C's in every P. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But if I'm only doing a half of a pint, how many cups, there we go, how many cups should be in half of a pint? Well, if this is shaded in, this part would be half. How many C's are up top? Just the 1. So I'm just going to put 1 C. I know it's kind of hard to see, but 1 C is right here. So I'm going to hold it. Tell me how many cups are in 4.5 pints. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is only 1, so it's just 9. There are 9 cups and 4.5 pints. I don't think I'm going to write on the back of this. I think I'm going to use it to flip over. So I'll write over here. Let's say, just to make it easier for you to see, let's do 9, 10, possibly 11, okay? Let's say for number 9, let's try to take... Now let's do one more where it's normal. Let's say in 5.5 quarts. Let's figure out how many pints that would be. Now, I'm going to start here, and I know that I'm going to start here because this is the side where I have the number and the words. So if it wants 5.5 quarts, I'm going to give myself 5.5 Q's. So this is 1 full Q, 2, 3, 4, 5. But they don't just want 5. They want 5.5, which means I have 5 full ones. I'm going to give myself another one, but I'm going to shade in the bottom. I'm only using 5 full ones, half of another one. So then you ask yourself, well, I want to get from quarts to pints. So let's look back at our picture, our drawing for Gallon Man. Quarts to pints, not a problem. It's all right here for me. I want pints, which are the P's, and I have Q's. So you need to mentally ask yourself, how many P's should be in every Q? Well, here's 1 Q. How many P's do you see? Just the 2. So here, if these are Q's and you want to get to P's, if you know there are 2 P's in every Q or 2 pints in every quart, you should be giving yourself 2 P's, 2 pints in every quart. Except for the last one, because the last one is half. So if there's 2 P's in every quart typically, but this one's only half, half of 2 is 1. So I'm not sticking 2 P's up top, I'm just doing 1, it's half. Now tell me, how many pints are in 5.5 quarts? You should have gotten yourself to 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 11. Let's do 2 more here, and let's make them double steps, okay? Let's say for 10, let's do how many ounces, sorry, I'm everywhere, how many ounces, which are the 8s, because we can't do 8 O's for ounces, we just make a red 8, remember? How many ounces are in 1.5 pints? Now, I'm not going to start with ounces because that's where my question mark would go. I got to start with the pints because that's where I have the number and the word. Well, pints are P's, okay? That tells me I'm going to make 1.5 P's. So here's 1 full P, but it's not just 1, it's 1.5. So I'll make another one. And I'll cut that P in half, and I'll shade in the bottom so that I don't use it. 1 full one, half of another one, 1.5. I want to get to ounces. So here's my Gallon Man picture. I want to get to ounces. I have P's. What do you know has to go inside of the P? 2 C's. In every P, there are 2 C's. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give myself 2 C's. Except this one, I'm not. If there should be 2 C's in every P and this is only half, what is half of 2? Just the 1. So there's only 1 C here because it's only half. Ounces. I want to get to ounces. What goes inside every C? In every C, there's an 8. And the 8s are my ounces. So I'm going to go back to my little drawing. And in every C, I'm going to put an 8, an 8, and an 8. Now remember, I see 8 3 times, but it's not 3 ounces. Every cup has 8 ounces. I see 8 3 times. So it's 8 plus 8 plus 8. But 8 plus 8 plus 8, or 8 times 3, is 24. Let's try maybe 2 more, maybe 1, okay? I want you to try them. So let's ask, let's do it. Let's ask how many pints are in 3.5 gallons. Please start with gallons because this is where you guys have the number and the word. Gallons are the G's. I want 3.5 G's, which means you're going to give me 3 full G's, but I need half of another one, which means you give me 1 and you shade in the bottom. Not using that part. What do you know has to go inside of every G? What's the next thing we draw after the G? What goes inside the G? Q's. My Q's. How many Q's should be in every single G? 4. 2 Q's up top, 2 Q's on the bottom. 2 Q's up top, 2 Q's on the bottom. 2 Q's up top, 2 Q's on the bottom. I don't have a bottom. I only have a top because I only needed half. The bottom is gone. So I'm just going to put my 2 Q's for up top. They don't have a bottom. It wants pints. I don't have P's, I have Q's. That tells me, you guys, we're not done. So you go back. What goes inside of every Q? Should be 2 P's. So I give myself, and I know it's going to be tiny, okay? But you give yourself 2 P's in every Q. And I know it's tiny. But this is still something we can do because, you guys, we are counting. Now, I've got 2 P's in every Q. I have my G's for my gallons, and I did get myself to P's. I did get myself to pints. And they're asking me, in these 3.5 gallons, how many pints are there? You should be trying to count and figure out how many pints are in 3.5 gallons. That's your job right now. If you're not done and you want to pause me, when you're ready to tell me how many pints are in 3.5 gallons, unpause me. If you're ready, we're counting P's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 P's here. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now I'm up to 16. If this is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Now I'm up to 24 P's. 25, 26, 27, 28. That means counting through 3.5 gallons, I just counted 28 P's. So how many pints are in 3.5 gallons? 28, you guys. Let's do one more because you still have work to do for me after this. Let's just say, for sake of argument, have we done gallons to cups? I don't think we have. Let's try gallons to cups, but we'll do 1.5 gallons. We won't be crazy. Let's say 1.5 gallons equals some amount of cups. Okay, we clearly can't start with the cups because this is where our question mark is. This is what we're missing. I know my gallons are the big G's, and I want 1.5 of them. Okay, so I've got my red pen. I'm just going to use it. 1 full G, but it's not just 1, it's 1.5, which means I'm going to give myself another G, and I'm going to color in the bottom. We're not using it. We're only using the top part. We're not using the bottom part. What do you know has to go inside of every single G? It's the next thing that we would draw. Should be the 4 Q's. Absolutely should be 4 Q's. So 2 up top, 2 on the bottom. I don't have a bottom, so just 2 up top. I don't have a bottom. It was just 1.5. We're not using the bottom. I'm not to C's yet, and I want to get to C's. I need to get to C's because I'm measuring cups. So we keep going back. What goes inside of every Q? 2 P's. So the next thing I'm going to put is 2 P's, and it's going to get tiny. Okay, 2 P's in every Q. 2 P's in every Q. Still not where I need to be. This is not a P, this is a C. So I go back. Well, what goes inside of every P? 2 C's. And I know it's tiny. Okay, I know that. So I'm going to try to do 2 C's. They're hard to see. So I got a P, 2 C's. They're getting jumbled, and it's getting a little bit difficult. If it makes it easier for you, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, 12. I have 12 P's, okay? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And we know that in every P there should be 2 C's. So I'll hover it right here. I know it's kind of hard. See if you can tell me how many cups came out of my 1.5 gallons. If you need more time, please pause me. Should be 24, you guys. This is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. I know that this is different, okay? The halves, they're harder, and if we need more or we need another video with different examples, I can absolutely do that for you guys. If you want to rewatch it and get some more practice, that's fine. If you need help, you guys have my cell phone number. You guys can text me. We can send pictures. I want this to make sense, but don't tell me that you don't get it if you're not willing to draw yourself the pictures. You have to be able to draw yourself the pictures. What I would like for you to do, because you guys have, well, I guess you don't, you do. You do. It's not titled Lesson 4 on Envision. It's going to be titled Lesson 3. But then you guys also have some exit ticket questions for me. I want you to practice on Envision. I don't care how many times you do it. I don't care if you try it 3 or 4 times. I don't care if you practice 3 times, it's still not at 100. I just need you to practice. We need to practice. And when you do Envision, I want you guys to use the gallon, man. And if it's messy where you've already tried to draw lines on it, you don't like that, you want the normal one, then skip back a page in your notebook. You guys can do that. But we need practice. So I would like for you to practice on Envision. And then I believe there's 3, I think there's 3 exit tickets for me, for you to do for me. I just want to see where we are, okay? I know it's a little bit harder. And if you need me, please let me know. All right.